Welcome everyone, I'm Nate Torres, and today we'll discuss the impact of political changes on mining investment in Mexico. With the arrival of the new government and the Plan Mexico initiative, the mining industry is seeing new opportunities after years of restrictions. We'll analyze how these changes affect investors and what opportunities may arise in the sector. Join us in this episode to better understand the financial landscape and investment opportunities in emerging markets.
It would be good today, Nate, to talk about the fairly rapid pace of positive developments in terms of jurisdiction and jurisdictional risk in Mexico. After a period of heightened jurisdictional risk in which the former Mexican president, introduced the idea of a ban on open pit mining and put a de facto ban on the issuance of permits for almost all kinds of mining in Mexico for a few years, and was generally hostile to the sector. We have a new administration in Mexico under Claudia Sheinbaum, and we have a new administration in Washington under Donald Trump. And both of those are generating very positive impacts, I think, for the mining sector in Mexico, particularly companies at our stage seeking to develop projects and seeking to show the markets that mining permits are obtainable and that Mexico is in fact open for business. This research by a Canadian capital market player, published December 19th, talked about the positive effects of the Sheinbaum administration. They titled this research Winds of Change in Mexico's Mining Industry, Positioned for Success in 2025. So I think the title speaks for itself. And in this research, they highlight a number of very positive developments under Claudia Sheinbaum. Since this research was published, the Mexican federal administration under Sheinbaum came out and talked about Plan Mexico, introduced Plan Mexico, a plan for fast-tracking development and economic development. Since Ventum published this research in December of last year, President Sheinbaum has come out with Plan Mexico, which is a plan to facilitate expedited permitting for mines, to facilitate an expedited process for foreign investment in general in the country, basically to boost the Mexican economy. President Sheinbaum talked about lifting the Mexican economy from the 12th largest in terms of GDP in the world to the 10th largest. So Plan Mexico is a very aggressive economic plan to lay out the red carpet for foreign investors and for industry. Mining is a part of that. And there's very, very positive aspects of Plan Mexico that I think if this research had been published post the implementation of Plan Mexico, it would certainly be mentioned here. So we have a number of very positive developments since our inauguration on October 1st, as well as now, I think in response to U.S. federal administration, a plan to expedite mining permits. British Columbia in Canada announced last week an analogous program. They announced the fast tracking of 18 different resource projects in the province. So both countries are responding to the new administration in Trump and the threat of the threat of tariffs, for instance, by prioritizing the mining industry. So very positive and fast-moving developments for companies like ours. Ventum points out that uncertainties remain, but there are several very attractive things going on in Mexico right now. They point out, of course, that Mexico has very attractive geology and world-class deposits. That's been one of the things that's driven Mexico to become one of the top mining jurisdictions in the world. They also point out the long history of mining. It's a country that sees itself as a country of miners, very proud of the industry, and it's got great infrastructure. Another important fact of Mexico is they graduate more engineers per capita than just about any country on earth. So they've got the people, they've got the infrastructure, they've got the history, they've got the attitude towards mining. Prior to AMLO, prior to the AMLO administration, Mexico was considered a top 5 or top 8 mining jurisdiction in the world. All those attributes that made it a top mining jurisdiction are still there. Also pointed out, of course, that mining contributes greatly to the Mexican economy. Sheinbaum recently cited 4% of GDP, which is even higher than the numbers that we would have cited. And here's Barry Dolbert back in 2016 declared Mexico one of the endurable top 5 mining jurisdictions. Of course, they didn't anticipate AMLO's impact on the sector, but this is a comment on all of those qualities that make Mexico one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world, made it one of the best jurisdictions in the world. And I think some of those qualities now are going to be allowed to back and be the what they are. Dialogue with the industry is picking up. That is something that we have understood. We know a lot of our peers and ourselves are talking to members of government, giving them feedback. There's a very active organization that represents miners in Mexico, and I think they've been doing a very, very job of speaking to the new federal administration and talking about the advantages of mining, what it contributes to the economy, what it contributes to and its history of responsible employment and responsible development. Importantly for us, Ventum points out that a ban proposed by AMLO on open pit mining is extremely unlikely. What instead we will see is a set of rules for permitting of open pit mines that contain a few more conditions than previously, such things as local aspects of water use and something that they call national strategic interest. And a project like San Dimas would certainly fit, I think, under that heading. A lot of jobs in a rural region, huge contributor to the tax base over a long period of time. So that is a very important aspect of our project and a lot of projects in Mexico that they do unleash. They very important aspect of a lot of big mines in Mexico. They do bring economic development to rural regions. They're very large contributors to the tax base. They support the development of new infrastructure, and they employ people generally with higher than most industries.
So just to make clear, Oracle already has these points kind of solved, right? It's not an issue. You have
Correct.
great relationship with the town. You have water next to you, etc.
That's right. Yeah, there is water in the region. They're from a number of different sources. Groundwater was probably the one that San Dimas would use. We have a great relationship with the people locally. It is a mining district, and we get feedback all the time from the local community.
Can you teach me a little bit about the permits? What kind of permits do you have? What kind of permits are now being issued? How does that work?
So mining concessions in Mexico, mineral concessions in Mexico, contain the rights to explore your property, and then they also contain the right to transfer to. So arguably, we have a permit that contains the right to take this project to exploitation, to mining, subject to certain conditions. And it's over the next 3 months that President Sheinbaum has committed to create a new set of conditions that will finally lay the groundwork for permitting projects like this. It will set out the rules. They'll be clear, they'll be transparent, and be enforced by the Sheinbaum administration. She is, after all, a very pragmatic administrator. When she was the mayor of Mexico, she proved herself to be a very effective administrator and a very pragmatic one. And so what we're expecting with these new set of rules are clear-cut conditions under which projects can get permitted.
So the idea is Mexico needs to clarify the rules in the next 3 months for whoever is buying Oracle.
She'll set out, or will not be exclusive to Oracle. There'll be mining industry regulations applicable to all mining projects as they seek permits.
But I mean, that will be necessarily for
that will be for the developer of this project. But then there's also some sorts that AMLO changed last year in regards to exploration.
Okay.
And those will be established as well. So what we expect is a set of ground rules that and benefit companies like and make it possible to make the kinds of investments, very large investments, tens of hundreds of billions, even billions of dollars in the case of the development of a project like San Dimas. It'll make it clear how to advance those projects. It'll be clear, transparent, and hopefully consistently enforced set of rules.
Excellent. Thank you.
So here's another page from Ventum. They talk about the unlikeliness of, they say it is extremely unlikely that we'll see an open pit mining ban. Our understanding is instead we will see a set of rules under which projects like ours can be advanced and permitted. And then I referenced Plan Mexico, very comprehensive, very robust set of rules or legislation to fast track investment into the country. In January of this year, President Sheinbaum introduced Plan Mexico. It's a very robust system of regulations, proposed regulations that will fast track investment into the country. She had stated, as I mentioned earlier, a desire to increase the GDP of Mexico from the world's 12th largest to the 10th largest across a variety of industries. Plan Mexico applies to as well, and we expect to see relatively quickly here a new set of the set of rules that I referred to. So this is in response to the new federal administration in Washington, and both Canada and Mexico are responding to this in both cases by talking about fast-tracking permitting for mining industry and accelerating the mining industry, because it is one industry that you could argue is metals produced in Mexico and mined in Mexico could be exported around the world, same as metals mined in British Columbia could be exported around the world. So it is considered an industry that has a certain degree of protection from a trade war.
If I'm not mistaken, I think currently only like 4% of the production is going to the US or something like that.
It's a relatively small number. This is from memory, but last year, or maybe the last year for which records could be obtained is 2023. Mexico exported approximately $6.5 billion worth of copper in concentrate and finished products. The vast majority of that, $5.5 billion or so, was in the form of concentrate or cathode, so it was unprocessed copper, not processed rather into went entirely outside the United States. So no concentrate, no cathode was exported to the United States. And a little over a third of the 750 million approximately of semi-produced projects, wire, film, copper rods, pipes, etc., went to the United States. So under 400 million of a $6.5 billion copper trade went to the United States.
Understood.
If Mexico was to increase copper production, that would be in the form of concentrate and cathode in the case of oxide copper mines, and that would not be affected by any tariffs to the United States.
Understood. And it's probably a month old. It's not a month old, right?
It's not even a month old. I'm quite impressed by the speed with which Sheinbaum responded to the proposed tariffs from Washington. Plan looks very robust response to the threat of tariffs, and it promises, I think, to boost the Mexican economy as planned. Is an industry fairly unique in that it relies on exports to the United States. Metals in concentrate and other forms can be exported anywhere around the world. And Mexico has dozens upon dozens of projects at the permitting stage. Hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars of investment can be unlocked by fast-tracking the permitting process, well, simply by clarifying the permitting process and then ultimately fast-tracking it.
Understood. Thank you very much, Adam. I wanted to ask you, how will the value of junior mining will be affected by these changes?
Will be positively affected. The sector has been under a cloud for the better part of the last couple of years as a result of the perception of a threat from AMLO's actions. And the equity values of Canadian juniors, of mining juniors in Mexico in general, have been impacted by this. I don't think these changes, the positive effects potentially of Plan Mexico, the storm that new rules will be established within a few months, and the fact that an open pit permit was granted just 2 weeks ago, ending a de facto ban on the issuance of such permits. I don't think that understanding has trickled out in the market and affected the values of these companies quite yet. I believe the market will need to see more. They'll need to see those rules. They'll need to see some proactive actions on the government's part, perhaps additional thing issued. But I think that message will come out, and maybe it'll take a certain amount of time to come out and be understood by the market. But remember that this was a long, slow process at the federal level in Mexico of putting up roadblocks to mining development, and it may be a long slopes of removing those roadblocks. Although, as I said earlier, I think Sheinbaum has acted extremely quickly. It's only a few months since her inauguration, and she's already made some very significant changes. So obviously hoping for a quicker process than otherwise. But I think it will get out there. It will be in the sector. It takes a lot to earn back trust, after all. And so we're going to have to see some positive actions and positive statements and new legislation. But Mexico has a lot to offer the investor. Mexican mining projects used to trade at a premium to their peers because it was considered such a good jurisdiction. They currently trade at a discount to their international peers. So I think we've got ways to go, and investors could look forward to, I think, a positive re-rating of their Mexican mining investments, including juniors like Oroca.
Thank you. All right. Understood.
Thanks, Dave.